relationships are absolutely like give and take, right? We will all have seasons in our relationships that you are more of the giver than the receiver. That's just part of it. When I cross the line from our relationship is give and take this to like, I'm now keeping score, then it's not from my authenticity. It's not from my values. It's not from this deep well of love.
With all of the years that my husband and I have spent caring for and supporting and loving family, we do remind ourselves this is a blessing. How often do people really get to spend all of this extra time with their adult children?
Yeah.
And with their grandchildren?
We give enough credit to how vulnerable it is to be all of who we are, flaws and all, and to ask for help. Oh yeah, like I said yes to, I said I could help with all these things and now I'm drowning. I need help. Welcome to Courage is Built Here, the podcast. I'm Justine Froelker, licensed professional counselor, author, speaker, and corporate trainer. Here, we bring my Courage is Built Here curriculum to life and community. Each week, I invite a guest to walk one of the 5 courageous pathways with me through authentic, sometimes tough, sometimes hilarious conversations. No performance, no polish, just real people practicing real courage with grit, grace, and a whole lot of love. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Courage is Built Here podcast. Today, we have Pathway 3, Be Fully You, how to show up authentically. This is the pathway where we learn all about how to show up as all of who we are in all of the spaces that we exist in. Even if not every space we exist in is brave or safe enough for us. It means we might have to show up in those spaces with boundaries, because sometimes not everyone has the right to hold our story or to see all of who we are. And the courage work really, I believe, for me at least, I'm done letting anybody take my courage from me. I'm going to be me everywhere I go. It might need to be more boundaried in some spaces than others. Still going to be me though. And so when we talk about authenticity, we have to talk about vulnerability. We have to talk about showing our hearts to other people, showing our flaws to other people, being true and honest and all of who we are. And vulnerability is something that our brain doesn't love because our brain likes to stay safe and comfortable. Vulnerability will always feel risky because you don't know what you're going to get. You might be judged. You might be criticized. You might be rejected. You also might be loved, received, have some joy and true connection with some people. Because the only place that authentic connection can take place is when we choose to show up authentically vulnerable. Vulnerability is absolutely the place where all the good stuff is born, to be honest. Connection and joy and innovation and creativity. And it's what we were made for. And so in order to be courageous, in order to show up authentically, you have to be vulnerable. I love today's conversation. I love to see where these conversations go because sometimes I think my guests don't even know until they open their mouth and until they get the question, even though they get that first question in preparation. Today's guest is Jamie Burkhart. She is the Director of Women in Leadership for Missouri Association of School Administrators. And that's how I met Jamie. I have had the honor of speaking at the Women's Leadership Summit for MASA. It'll be twice now here in a little while. And she has done the full 3-day training with me. And so she is really just walking out this work. And I love how she talks about, we talk a lot about like how when we are all of who we are, it doesn't mean that there aren't things or times that who we are, that it can sometimes work against us. Like it can work against us. And she's super brave in sharing about this. And we just have a great conversation. And so let's welcome Jamie to the podcast. Hi, Jamie. Welcome to the Courage is Built Here podcast.
Good morning, Justine. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. I'm so excited and so grateful. All right. I'm going to start you off with the first question I begin every guest off with based off of the pathway that you chose. So when you think about courage, most especially through that lens of what I call pathway 3, be fully you, which is the skill sets of like authenticity, vulnerability, self-compassion. Is there a story or a moment that comes up for you?
Oh, as I thought about this question, I need to let you know, like, I am at this stage of my life where, like, like I speak truth. And while I speak truth, I don't want to hurt people. But,
Yep.
and so in fact, I've really struggled with many of my stories today to try and bring this forward because like I don't want any of my family members to be hurt by my words in this podcast. Um,
Yeah.
because well, even if they were responsible for my deep hurt, I don't
Yep.
want to hurt them, if that makes sense. So I
Yeah.
have had so many stories in my mind, but I think this is where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna talk about my life currently. Usually I talk about
Yeah.
my professional life, but today I'm gonna go into my personal
Okay.
life where we have 6 children and 8 grandchildren. And they are some of my joy.
Mhm.
But due to different circumstances, we have my husband and myself and our teenage son here,
Mhm.
and we have 2 adult children, an adult child spouse, and 4 grandchildren now living with us. So if you kind of catch the numbers, there are 10 people living in our
Uh-huh.
home, and
Wow.
um, so that's the 3 of us, my husband, myself, and our teenage son, and then now
Yep.
our adult children and their children, and they're here because they needed and they asked for support, right? And
Yeah.
um, what I learned in and I'm no, let me say that again. What I am learning in all of this, because it's been over a year now of 10 people living in my home, is
Oh my gosh.
um, my love language is serving people. And that's my giving, my gift. But it's also what I like to receive as well, right?
Okay.
And so there can be a battle between me feeling like I really need to serve my children to show them my love. And so all of the cooking and all of the laundry and all of the dishes and all of the let me, help you with this project. Let me do um it can be a lot. And
Yeah.
without boundaries, I realize that I can get resentful, and I need to recognize when I'm feeling that, and when I'm the one that's doing the serving and I'm intentionally
Mhm.
doing it partly for the reason that I want I want for my children and my grandchildren later on in life to think, wow, mom and Mimi, like they were there. She
Yeah.
showed
They showed
love.
up. Yep. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's this balance between serving and boundaries
Mhm.
that I've really been working on. And while
Yeah.
I'm really good at that with others, for instance, my son and daughter-in-law and their 2 boys, they live in our basement and that is their area. I respect that. I don't
Mhm.
go to their area unless invited because they need to have their own
Yeah.
home, right?
Right. Right.
However, the rest of the house is kind of open to anyone and everyone because it's our home. So I have
That's
to
true.
figure
Right.
out, right? What are the
Right.
boundaries when I'm actually working
Uh-huh.
and I need space? And
Yeah.
so I've, had to set up, here are the times that I need quiet. I need silence. I
Yep.
need no interruptions. Um,
Mhm.
and here when I'm exhausted in the evenings, here's when I need you to know that I need help,
Right.
even though
Right.
doggone it is really hard for me to ask for help because I'm the one that serves others. Right.
Right.
So, I mean, this is something that I've been rumbling with for
Yeah.
quite a while now, but I realize that, I mean, this is my nature. I am that
Mhm.
servant. And it's
Yeah.
when I am exhausted and I realize I think I'm feeling resentful right now,
Yep.
and I own it and go, but why? Why am I feeling that? And it's okay to
Yeah.
feel that. Um,
Absolutely.
but then what, I can't sit in it forever. So then
Yep.
what? How am I going
Exactly.
to move forward from here? And what do I
Yeah.
need? What's my need right now? This is the
Yeah.
courage work that we talk about. And if
Yep.
I'm not being me and
Mhm.
I'm not saying this is who I am and why I'm this way, but I can also let it get too far and acknowledge that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I
and
lo
I can do
that's
that
a
professionally too. I
Oh,
try
for
and
sure.
do all and be all in my professional life as
Yep.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in like, there's a you being fully you, your authenticity, your vulnerability, who you are, who you've worked to be, who you were created to be is that of service, right? And kinda like when we talk about our values in the courage work, like, and I don't know if it's ever come up like this before. Often when we talk about values, I will talk about, like, and it's even in the Courage is Built Here workbook, like, is there a shadow side to your values? Like, is there a time or a season that your values have worked against you? Are there behaviors that they work against you? And I'm not sure, and yet it makes so much sense as you're talking, Jamie. Like, if I am living fully into am, who I am supposed to be, who I want to be, who I'm created to be, my full authenticity, chances are there's probably shadow sides to that too, right? Like, your heart is servant, right? Of service, and you can give way too much beyond what you have to give, which absolutely will lead to resentment. Right? Like, I can be, like, I can say yes to all these invitations and, be super social and things like that, and at the end of the day, if I don't take time to recharge myself, I will end up with resentment and probably sick because I need time by myself to recharge, right? Like, there's these pieces of, like, almost it's not like when we I don't wanna say we live too much into who we are, it's almost rather like we live into who we are without any boundaries, and there comes up the shadow side.
Exactly. And and I've had to learn that I need. This is a phrase I've just heard recently, and I love it. That I need to be present where my feet are. That so when I
Yep.
am at home, I've got to be present at home and really be focused at home. And but
Mhm.
also with that shadow side, then I've got to stop listening to that negative self-talk that, oh my,
Mhm.
nobody sees the things that I do and they don't appreciate the things that I do. And because that's not truth.
Yeah.
That's not
Yep.
from God. In my faith, that's
Yes.
not
Yes.
what so I've got to talk
Yeah.
those positive messages
Uh-huh.
into myself. I've got to
Yeah.
put courage into
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
And that's a big part of my faith when we think about
Yeah.
when I focus on love. With love,
Mhm.
there is no fear, right? That casts out all fear.
Yep.
And so the negativity that inserts that fear, I my mind can tell me that I'm an imposter, that I'm not good
Mhm.
enough. And when I
Yeah.
hear it, I've got to acknowledge it and say, I am enough and I am worthy. And I can tell
Uh-huh.
you that God thinks I'm worthy. I can go
Yeah.
on
Yep.
thank you walks because when I am engaged in
Ooh, I love it.
gratefulness, I can't I can't be negative. I cannot
Mhm.
continue to think negative
So true.
thoughts when I'm being
Yeah.
grateful. I
Uh-huh.
can think
Yeah.
about success journals and write down
Mhm.
what went well that day. When
Yep.
I'm thinking those positive things, you can't have the negativity and the self-doubt.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
again, focusing on the love because that love casts out all fear.
Yep. Yeah. I love that. There's a there's also that, like, if I am being of service from my values, from who I am, from love, like, the well never runs dry. If I am being of service from hustle, striving, earning love, respect, or I also think a big thing that comes up for a lot of people is being of service and somewhere along the way, probably because we're not setting boundaries, we start keeping the scorecard. Now,
Yes.
like, relationships are absolutely, like, give and take, right? Relationships are give and take. We will all have seasons in our relationships that you are more of the giver than the receiver. That's just part of it. Except when we cross the line, which the line is fine and it wiggles and it changes, but when I cross the line from our relationship is give and take. This is what it's like to be in relationship with someone to like, I'm now keeping score. I always give. They never like that part. Then it's not from my authenticity. It's not from my values. It's not from this deep well of love and hope and relationship, empathy, things like that. Does that like, there's a piece there, but it's
Completely.
so easy, whether or not it's the world or like my anxiety or my fear, it's so easy for it to cross that line, for those thoughts to get going.
And we switch it over into obligation or
Ugh,
even just
yeah.
selfishness instead of love. Yes. Because
Mhm.
in my values, like I want to show up for my kids and my grandkids. That's what I
Yeah.
want to show up for the people that I work with.
Yeah.
That's me. And
Mhm.
at the same
Yep.
time, if I'm doing it in the wrong way, not in my values, then it just feels yucky. And so that's what
Right.
this work does for me. It's so important for me to
Yeah.
be able to sit back and say, where am I right now? And am I doing it for the right reasons in the right headspace?
Mhm.
Or is it
Mhm.
for obligation, or is it for because I want to shine something on myself, because that's not the
Ooh,
reason why I want to do it. but
yeah. Yeah.
but at that moment, was
So
I
true.
expecting it to be that way? Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Right. No, it does make sense. It like, there our motivations can like, the root from which it is born can unfortunately shift very easily. And I think that's how come it's so important for us to stay rooted in our values and who we are in our authenticity because then it won't be we won't shift away from those motivations so often. And at the same time, life is a lot. Adulting is hard. So to think that I'm always going to get it right is unrealistic. Uh and also pulls me out of my authenticity at the same time. Cuz I also think like when it comes to like when we are living into who we are or our values and it's not from those deep roots of our values and courage and love, things like that. One, it's exhausting. And I think for a lot of people, I think I was an example of that. It could very closely be the death of us. Like we will end up sick or resentful or our relationships will end up damaged beyond repair. Like there is a falling out of not living from our authenticity from a place of our values. Because I think a lot of people live into it from a place of hustling or striving or performing or perfecting or serving beyond what they can.
So let me take it a little bit further as I kind of think about rumble through this, in
Yeah.
that here's a very vulnerable thought that I have at times too. With all of the years that my husband and I have spent caring for and supporting and loving family, and we do remind ourselves this is a blessing. How often do people really get to spend all of this extra time with their adult children
Yeah.
and with their grandchildren? So that's a blessing. But
Sure.
but who will I be when eventually they are all gone? Who and
Yeah.
then what? Because that's so much
True.
of who I am right now.
Yeah.
Who will I become next?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
Because well, and because they can't be everything, right? That
Exactly.
is not your identity. It's a part of your identity. And as some like I see that like as someone who did not get to have kids and the way that people parent nowadays, like not everybody obviously, but like their kids are their entire lives. Like, there is never a free moment. They don't talk about anything except their kids, and I get it, and there's part of me the therapist in me is like, hold on a second. If you're lucky, blessed, and privileged enough, they are leaving you. Your job is
Yes.
to make adults that go out and do better and different than you, right? And contribute to, like, so they're leaving you. And the therapist in me is like, hold on a second, like, who are you going to be when they're gone? Are you still going to have a marriage that you love, that you know each other, right? Like it comes back to our authenticity and our identity. It cannot be all one thing or one person. It's not, it's too much pressure on those people too. That question, such a brave question. Who will I be when they are back on their feet and don't need to be here? And I do think the courage work is finding, like, who are you now while they're there, and the parts of you that will miss this season, because it's a beautiful season and really hard. It's both, right? It's both. It's okay to say that. I do like that. You are not alone in that, though. It's in so many seasons of our lives too, whether or not you're new empty nesters or you're in the sandwich generation or you got children living back with you. Like, there's so much of that, like so much of our identity gets wrapped up in our relationship to other people. And it's a part of your identity.
It is. And I think this just goes to show, as you and I talked about, at an earlier time, is that you're never done with this work. You are always, there are going to be new phases, new seasons, and
Yeah.
and then, new thoughts entered into your lifestyle, and
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and that's good, and it
Yep.
should be. And there will continue to be hard stuff. And so we've got to just
Yes.
continue with the work and
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe identify,
It's
which
so
path
true.
am I on right at this moment?
Yeah. Be where my feet are planted. Yeah. Such a huge piece. I love that. When it comes to your, like, the vulnerability and authenticity, especially in, like, your servant heart, how different does it look in the professional space versus at home? Or, like, are there different struggles there or hiccups there? Or is it a lot of the same? It just kind of shows up different.
Um, yeah, I just have this drive to want to take take things off of everyone's plates, which then when I take on their
Oh,
things, yes.
because you have, like, a gigantic plate, Jamie? Like, your plate's huge? I
um
didn't know that.
yeah. But that's what I do in the workplace as well, and I
Yep.
and I enjoy it because I love to
Yeah.
work and collaborate with people, and I can offer perhaps more than I should sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just so grateful, however, that I work with a staff that when I get to that place and I can say I'm struggling, I've been barely swimming and now I think I'm sinking. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
they will acknowledge and say, "Yes, let me take something from you." And so
Yeah.
we continue to have a
Yeah.
really nice give and take. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I still have to think about, where
Mhm.
am I? Am I doing it
Yeah.
for the right reasons? Which normally I like to think that I am. It is to help and to serve and to make
Yeah.
us all better. I just want to build
Yeah.
capacity of others. Um,
Yeah.
i- but if it's for, let me just show you how many things I can handle, uh, I'm going to
Uh-huh.
be in trouble.
Right. Right. It's in, like, there's a how I don't think we give enough credit to how vulnerable it is to be all of who we are, flaws and all, authenticity, and to ask for help in being who we are. Like, "Oh, yeah, like, I said I could help with all these things, and now I'm drowning. I need help." Right? Like, those are super brave I think some of the bravest words we can ever say to children, to the people we lead, "I don't know," or "I screwed that up." Right? Like, those are really brave words, and yet, like, it's an extra layer of bravery when they come on top of us being true to who we are.
Yes. And you know what? I'm so blessed that in my job at title, Director of Women in Leadership. And so I get to support
Yeah.
female superintendents and aspiring superintendents across the state of Missouri. And
Love it.
this group that I get to work with just from across the state, these women are so
You're amazing.
phenomenal that
Yep.
they can also see when perhaps I need help. And
Yeah.
that's what's so great about my job and about the people that I get to work with. That
Mhm.
and that we continue to get to work with you, Justine, in future
Thank you.
events.
I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and, like, and when, because you're walking alongside one another, like, you
yes,
model the work for them, living into who you are fully, asking for help when you need it. That's your strongest tool. You are modeling the work for these leaders who are, um, in a tough system. Let's be honest. Like, it's there's still not enough women superintendents, and so, like, to for them to be served by you through also you just, like, being who you are, like, that is of service. That's modeling the courage work for them,
I
and it
hope
changes
so.
people's lives.
I hope so because it is so meaningful, and I can be just as guilty as the
Mhm.
next person about you know do as I say, not as I do. And
Yep.
when I realize that I'm
We all have our
being
moment.
hypocritical in that, that's when I have to
Yeah.
step back and go,
Yeah.
okay, pick myself back up and
Yep.
let's really do it right now.
Yeah. Yep. And also have those people who know you really well who are like, "Hey, what you doing? Like, come back over here. I'm gonna call you back in." Like, right? Like, I can see you're struggling or drowning, or, like, that's where we have our people call us into the work.
Absolutely. And I have some of the best colleagues that do that with me. So
I
I'm
love
just
it.
so
It's so
grateful.
good. That's awesome. It's so good. Ugh. You ready for your last 2 questions?
I guess. Let's go.
Okay. So the one that you know is coming. When did courage look different than you expected, and what did it teach you?
Mm. I thought of so many different
Yeah.
stories. And, ultimately, I'm going to go with this one because I think it ties well with what we've been talking about. I loved being a superintendent. I loved being a superintendent of a small rural school. And sometimes it just became my identity as well. And there came a time where my teenage son, I want to say he was like 13, 14 at the time, 13, when he said, "Mom, when are you going to retire so that you can spend time with us as a family?"
Oof.
And at that point, I had to really consider
Yeah.
all sides of me personally and professionally.
Yeah.
Where am I and what am I doing? And at that point, it became quite easy to realize I love my job and I was putting my job ahead of my family. And I need to use some courage now to recognize that I don't think I can keep doing this job and put my family first. And that's when I did decide to retire. And I didn't retire
Yeah.
because things were bad, because
Yeah.
I felt like everything was great. And we had accomplished almost all the goals that I came in there at school to do. So I left actually once the decision was made. And man, it was tough and there were a lot of tears.
Ugh.
But once that decision was made, it was solid. It made sense. But I'll tell you what, Justine, I work part-time now in my retirement,
Mhm.
and I've
Yeah.
picked up all sorts of other little part-time gigs in addition to my current gig.
Yeah.
And there are times where this same son will say, "Hey mom, just remember I thought you retired." And that's our
Wow.
cue. Okay, mom, step back.
Yeah.
Because that's just
Yeah.
in me that I
Yeah.
struggle to say no when I
Yeah.
find that it's something that I'm passionate about. And I
Yep.
I have to step back and realize this
Yeah.
is more important than
Yeah.
any of these jobs that I keep bringing on.
Yeah. I love that it says a lot. I always love to make sure parents pause to remember this, but it says a lot when a child can be honest with their parent. And I don't think parents give themselves enough credit for that relationship that they've built with their children. Um, it matters a lot. And so, like, it says a lot that he feels brave and safe enough to be like, "Hey, remember, like, you might be getting too close to that line again, and I want you to be a healthy version of you." Right? It's not his job to keep you that, but it's like he
Right.
is your mirror in many ways. Like our the partner that we choose to live with, our children, like they ultimately they are our mirrors. It's also why we need to believe them when they tell us how we're acting, like or how we're talking, right? Like because we chose them to reflect us back to ourselves, right? And to hold us accountable. And so like, but I do like I don't think it ever and it's probably my therapeutic background, but it matters so much when a child can be honest with a parent, no matter what their age.
It was
And
a
so I
gut
love that
punch.
he is yeah,
It was
I'm
for
sure,
a
because
while.
also they're gonna speak truth for sure, right?
And
Like,
at the same
that's
time,
just it's good.
my husband was so supportive and
Mm,
understanding and agreeable
yeah,
because he too, in everything that I've done, my husband has been so extremely supportive. And
yeah.
uh and I think it made it a lot easier for him to say, hey,
Ugh.
Jackson, your kid's right. Jackson's right. And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
too is that little voice at times where
Yep.
when I'm gone a lot, he'll say that little, hey, just remember, I thought you were retired. And I'll go, yes, dear. This is gonna be a
Yeah.
busy season for a couple of weeks. But then I promise I'm
Yep,
I'm back here and I'm all yours. And
exactly. Yep. And thank you for calling me into the work. Thank you for
absolutely.
reminding me, right? Oh, it's so good. That's so good. All right, your last question, your surprise question.
Okay.
What is one part of yourself that you are reclaiming or honoring right now?
Oh, wow. That's a big one. Um, I think I'm at that stage of my life now where I I do things I do things for others, yes.
Mhm,
However, I I am always going to look back and say, is this true for me? Am I doing this because I need to do it and because I want to do it? Um, or
mhm,
am I doing this out of obligation? Am I doing it
mhm.
because I'm feeling like nobody else will step up? Am I
Oof,
And so
yeah,
I am getting so much better about really evaluating, is this aligning with my values? And is am I doing it because it truly is a want or a need?
yeah,
And is it going to keep me in this place where I need to be right now? And I think I
yeah,
started off at the very beginning saying I'm going to speak truth. And and
yeah,
and my kids right now, they probably don't always like that because I've stopped sugarcoating things. And you
yep,
might not like the truth that I'm going to tell you right now, but you asked me the
mhm,
question, and it
yeah,
does neither of us good for me to sugarcoat it. So I'm going
yep,
to tell you exactly what I think, and you're going to know that
yeah,
we're always going to have this, and you might not like what I have to say. And
mhm,
I love you.
yep. Oh, it's so good. I love it so much. That's so good. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you,
Well, Justine, I just appreciate you and all that you bring, what you've brought to
thank
me.
you, thank you. Where can my community connect with you if they wanna connect with you?
I can be found on all the various socials, LinkedIn or
Yeah,
Facebook or
yeah.
Instagram or
Hey.
all
Yep.
of that.
Okay. We'll link it all in the show notes.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for this conversation. I loved it.
It means so much for me, to me, that you would think of me. So thank you, and keep spreading the good stuff and doing the good work.
We're going to do it. Keep going. Keep going. Thank you, my friend.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Courage is Built Here podcast. Whether you're brand new to this work or living it out loud every day, I hope today was helpful, hopeful, and a reminder that you're not alone. What one bit of courage will you take from this episode, and how will you walk it out? If this episode encouraged you, share it with a friend, leave us a review, and please make sure you like and subscribe. New episodes come out every Wednesday on your favorite podcast platform and Fridays on YouTube. For more resources, head to JustineFroelker.com and click to my store. Because courage isn't a one-time thing, it's built right here, one small choice at a time, and especially between us.